Hello everyone, I'm Frank and welcome to Frank Puzzles. And I'm going to be trying a new thing. Well, it's going to be an old thing, but I'm going to try to be putting a new spin on it essentially. I got some feedback from a user where basically they wanted to, they basically asked if I could maybe explain things a little slower or a little bit, yeah, just I guess a little slower and a little bit more thoroughly on some of my logic process, I think. And I thought that the very easy puzzles would be a very good way of using those puzzles to actually do something along those lines. So I'm going to be trying to say, I guess that this isn't really a new series. It's basically still the same old, Frank puzzles about something, but basically this is more just of maybe helping people learn more about how my logic process works and how to actually get better at solving some of these Sudokus, and particularly these variant Sudokus. So I thought I'd sort of repurpose sort of the very easy versions of my Sudokus to basically be more along the lines of sort of more thoroughly and slowly explaining the thought process behind it. So, anyways, that's what this is going to be. So, this is a very easy puzzle, considered very easy on the Logic Masters Germany forum. And I'm going to be trying to explain things a little bit more clearly and slowly. So, this might take a little longer in essentially the video time. So let me know if this seems like a good idea for you that you guys would want essentially. Um, Anyways, I'm gonna try it out. Maybe for I don't know. Definitely at least a couple of videos. Maybe even like a week of very easy videos, or maybe a little longer. I don't know. We'll try it out, see what the feedback is like, and we'll go from there. And today's very easy puzzle is called My A Game by Pink Goblin. And here are the rules. Standard Sudoku rules apply. The digits 1 through 9 appear in every row, column, and box. Adjacent digits along a green German whisper line must differ by at least 5. So this is an example of a German whisper line. This is also a separate German whisper line, and this is another German whisper line. So adjacent digits on it means that basically if you have two digits that are next to each other on the line, which is basically like for example here, 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 this is an example of it being adjacent. Then the the adjacent digits must have a difference of at least 5. So for example, if this were a 7, this would have to be a 1 or 2 to maintain that difference of at least 5. And then if this were 2, this would have to be 7, 8, or 9, because adjacent digits have to have a difference of at least 5. And that's German whisper line rule. Digits along a purple Renban line must form a set of non-repeating consecutive digits in any order. So this is an example of a Renban line. So on this, you cannot have repeats, and they must all be consecutive. So for example, for this one, if you had a 1 here, you would have to have a 2 and a 3 in some order on this line also, because you can't have repeats, and then also you have to have the set has to be consecutive. So if you have 1 that's only consecutive with 2, which is only consecutive with 1 and 3, you already have 1, so you can't repeat, so therefore you would have to add 3 to that to form a consecutive set along that line. And that's for all Renbans separately. Digits along an arrow must sum to the number indicated in the circle from which the arrow emerges. Digits may repeat along the arrows if allowed by other rules. So basically, this circle must sum to what all of these digits sum up to. And this circle must sum up to what all of these digits sum up to. So an example here could be this is 1 and 2, and this is 1 and 2. And therefore, this would have to be 6 to add up to the sum of all digits along the arrow. And that's how arrows work. Digits in cells separated by a white dot are consecutive. Not all dots are necessarily given. So for example, if this were a 3, this would have to be a 2 or 4 to be consecutive with it, because you have to have, because white dots separate cells which are consecutive. And those are all the rules. If you'd like to play along, there's going to be a link in the description. And now, I'm going to get started. Let's go. Okay, so the first thing that comes to my mind when I'm looking at this, first of all, is that this renban is all the digits from 1 through 9, because you cannot have repeats. So this is the same as a row, right? So that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Therefore, since you can't have repeats on this, along this row, these 7 cells have to be the same as all the cells on the renban. Therefore, these 2 cells are essentially the 2 cells that are missing that are not on the renban in row 5. Well, where can this be? This can only be in this specific space, right? Because otherwise, it can't be any of these because we know there's no repeats. It can't be this one because it sees that from normal Sudoku. So therefore, where's the only space that it can be in row 5? It has to be here. So therefore, this is the orange. And similarly, from the same logic, this one, which we're going to make green, has to be in this space, right? So we know for this one, all of these are different, so it cannot be any of these. It sees that one, so this one has to be different. Therefore, where is that number on row 5? It has to be here. So that was the first thing that came to my mind. The second thing that comes to my mind is this is a lot of digits here. So what can this be on the circle maximum, right? We know this has to be 1, 2, and 3 at least, right? Because this is, these are 3 unique digits. They all see each other from normal Sudoku rules. So therefore, this must be at minimum 1, 2, and 3. So that means this adds up to 6 here. What about this and this? These both have to be at least 1. So therefore, we know this has to be 8 or 9. This could be, and this gives us our degrees of freedom along the arrow. Therefore, there's only 1 degree of freedom that we are allowed. And by degree of freedom, I mean basically the amount that the highest number in each set can essentially go up. It could be also the opposite when I use degree of freedom, but in this specific case, it's how high can you go from the highest number in a set. Specifically, the sets I'm looking at are these 3, this 1 by itself, and this 1 by itself. So therefore, we have 1 degree of freedom because this can only go from 8 to 9, right? So there's only 1 degree of freedom that we have to play with along those lines. So specifically, the highest number in this set can only go up 1, and that would be therefore 3 going up to 4. So you can only go up by 1 for the highest number in a set. So this can only be 1, 2, and 3, or 1, 2, and 4. And we know the 1 and 2 have to be in this set because there's only 1 degree of freedom along this arrow. And so therefore, the 2 can't go up to a 4. The 2 can only go up to 3, but we already have a 3 included in the minimum. So therefore, you would have 1, 3, 3, which is not possible in this set to basically occur. So the 1, the 2 have to stay the same. The 3 is the only one that can actually use that degree of freedom and go up to 4. Similarly, this has to be 1 and 2. because we know the 1 can only go up to 2 because we only have 1 degree of freedom along this arrow. Similarly, this has to be 1 or 2, which tells us actually that this number on the German whisper line has to be a low number. And on a German whisper line, you'll always alternate sets between highs and lows. Because on a German whisper line, you either have a digit that's 1 through 4. If you have a digit from 1 through 4, it must be next to a digit that's from 6 through 9, just because of the way that German whisper line works, right? If you have a digit from 1 through 4, the lowest digit you can have that's a neighbor is 1 plus 5, because you have to have a difference of at least 5 between the digits. So it would have to be 6 through 9. And then the highest neighbor you can have for 6 through 9 cell has to be 4 or lower, right? Because the difference from 9, which is the highest digit, if you take 5 away from it, that means it has to be 4, right? So if you have that difference, you always will alternate. So this good thing that we have this is 1 through 4, because this would have to be the same set as this one because it alternates, right? So we know these two are low, which means these three have to be high. And then we always alternate between low and high. So therefore this is low. These two have to be high because we alternate. And so adjacent cells on the German whisper line have to be the other set. Therefore, that forces this to be low, which makes this high, which makes this low, and makes this high. So now we know that these are lows and these are highs. We also know that these two have to be continuous, right? And we could actually continue coloring the lows and the highs, because that actually is helpful for counting, essentially, how many of each set is in each row or column or box, right? Because you can only have 4, obviously, of each low and 4 of each high in each row, each column, and each box. Because there's the digits 1 through 4, there's only 4 digits there, and the other digits 6 through 9, and there's only 4 digits there too. So that's how you're able to essentially sort of attack those sort of things. Is basically you can basically divide them into sets, and if you have enough of one set, you can eliminate that set from a row or a column or a box. So, for example, in box 2, this is consecutive with this, which is consecutive with this. Well, we know this is a low, so this has to be 1 through 4, and this is 1 or 2. Because of that, we know this also has to be a low, because it cannot be 5, because 5 has to be next to 4 or 4 and 6 specifically, and that one of them could be 4, but the other one can't be 6. So therefore, we know this also has to be a low, because those are the only ones that are consecutive with other lows, 2 other lows specifically, in between 2 other lows. So therefore, we also know this has to be a high, right? Because you have 2 consecutive numbers that, you have a number that's consecutive with 2 digits that are high, which is 6, 7, 8, and 9. Well, it must be in between those 2 digits, so therefore the lowest you can go is from 6, 7, and 8. Therefore, this has to be a high also, right? Because if it's 5 again, you can't have 4 and 6 be here. So it has to be 6 and above, and it can't even be 6. It has to be 7 or 8 specifically, because it has to be in between 2 high numbers. So since we have 4 highs in box 2, we have 4 lows in box 2, where's the 5? It can't be any of the highs or lows, so it has to be here. So this is a 5. This could actually be a 5. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. We know it can't be 1 or 2 because all the 1s and 2s are accounted for in box 4. So this must be at least 3, 4, or 5. which means 1 cannot be consecutive with it because 1 can only be consecutive with 2. So this can't be 1. It can only be 2, 3, or 4, which is next to it, 3, 4, 5. And similarly, this can't be 4 because 4 can only be consecutive with 3 and 5. Therefore, this cannot be 4 because this could only be 1 or 2. So this cannot be 4. It could be 1, 2, or 3. This has to be 1 or 2. We could do something similar along this arrow. In fact, that's probably what we'll tackle next. Well, maybe we should tackle this. Yeah, let's tackle this. This digit is in between 3 unique digits that are high. So, at minimum, these highs can be 7, 8, and 9. You have to therefore be this cell must be next to a 7 at least, which means it can only be 1 or 2 because 3 can't be next to a 7 and 4 can't be next to a 7. So this can be 1 or 2, which means this is a 3, 4 pair. Now the thing is, if this were 4, it would have to be consecutive with 3 and 5, but that's not possible here. So this one cannot be 4. Therefore, this must be a 3 because you can't, again, the 4 must be consecutive with 3 and 5, but neither of these can be 5. So therefore, must be 3, this has to be 4, and this must be 2. And therefore, this is 1. Now, the thing is, along this arrow, remember, we only had the possibility of 1 degree of freedom. So one number that is the highest number can only go up 1. Now, we've used that degree of freedom from going 1 to 2. Therefore, we know we've lost that degree of freedom, so the rest of the arrow cannot use that degree of freedom. So this can no longer be 4. This set can no longer have 3 go up to 4, and this can no longer go from 1 to 2. And in addition, we know we've lost that degree of freedom, so the 8 is no longer valid as a possibility, right? Because 8 was considering the lowest possibility, where this is 1, 2, and 3. This is 1, and this is 1. Since this is now a 2, therefore this must be 9, right? Because this is at minimum 2 plus 1, 2, and 3, which is 6. So that's 8 plus 1, which is 9. So this must be 9. These must be the minimum. So this is 1, and this has to be 1, 2, and 3. So this can no longer be 4. And this is 1, 2, or 3. So the 1, 2, and 3, we have 3, 1, 2, and 3s accounted for. This can't be 1 because the 1 sees it by Sudoku rules. Again, this can't be 1 because it was consecutive with something, which it had to be 3, 4, 5. Therefore, this has to be the 1 because we have a 2, 3, 2, 3 pair in box 4. This can no longer be 2 or 3 because we have a 2, 3, 2, 3 pair. And specifically, if you have 2 cells that are basically can only be 2 digits, because those 2 cells must contain those 2 digits, they cannot appear anywhere else in the same row or box, right? So since these 2 have to be 2 or 3, if one is 2, the other has to be 3. Therefore, none of the other cells in the box can also have a 2 or 3 because that would eliminate the possibilities for these 2 cells. Therefore, this cannot be 2 or 3, and it must be 1. This can't be 2 or 3, so this is 4 or 5. 5 can no longer be consecutive with any digit that's here, right? Because 5 has to be consecutive with 4 or 6, and this can't be 4 or 6. Therefore, this cannot be 5. Therefore, we know this is 4, which makes this a 3 because they have to be consecutive, right? So 3 is the only one that's consecutive with 4. Therefore, this is 2. So now we have this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So all the lows are already in box 4. So these all have to be highs or 5. This cannot be 9. It has to be 5 away from 1. So this has to be, again, a high. It has to be 6, 7, or 8. Same here. But this could be 6, 7, 8, or 9 because the 9 doesn't see that one. So this is 6, 7, 8, or 9. But it can't be 6 specifically because the 2 seat is next to it, and 2 and 6 do not have a difference of at least 5. So this has to be 7, 8, or 9. This has to be 7, 8, or 9. Now 4 can only be next to 4 only has one digit that it is 5 away from, and that's 9. So therefore it has to be next to 9 here and here. Therefore these two cannot be 9, because this one sees this one and this one sees that one. This again is a low, so it's 1 through 4, but it can't be 1. Therefore, it has to be 2, 3, or 4. Since this is 2, 3, or 4, and not 1, this can never be 6, right? 6 is never 5 away from 2, 3, or 4. So this could be 7, 8, or 9 also. These two cells are consecutive with this one. If this can never be 9, this could be 6, 7, or 8. If this were 7 and 8, 6 is not consecutive with both of those numbers. So this cannot be 7 and 8, both of these. Therefore, this one has to be 6, right? Say 6 was here. If 6 was here, these would both be 7 and 8, but 6 is not consecutive with 8, and it would have to be consecutive with 8 to actually make this work. So this obviously can't be 6, so this must be the 6 in box 2. 6 is only consecutive with 7, therefore this must be 7, which makes that 8. Let's see, what else do we have? This can no longer be 9. At minimum, this is 1 and 2, and this could be 1 and 2 to add up to 6. So this could be 6, but it could also be 7 or 8. So we have 2 degrees of freedom, and we're using the sets of these two and these two, right? So this would be 1 and 2, and it could go, you have 2 degrees of freedom, so the 2 could go up 2, and therefore it could go up to 4. The 2 cannot go up to 3, the 1 cannot go up to 3, therefore we know the 1 is guaranteed here, and this is either 2 or 4. So these are all low also. This could also be 1 and 2, and then again the 2 could go up to 4. So this could go at most to 4. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, not 6. This cannot be specifically 2 or 4. This cannot be 1. So the 2 here could go up to 3, or this 1 could go up to 3. That works either way. But again, these are both low, so let's color them low. Okay, what else do we know? So there cannot be a 1 anywhere else along row 5. In addition, 2 cannot be here, 2 cannot be here, because if it's 2 is there, it has to be consecutive with in either of these cells. So say there was a 2 here, right? If 2 is in one of these two cells, it has to be consecutive with something. But 2 can only be consecutive with 1 or 3, and they're both taken in column 5. Therefore, 2 cannot be in either of these cells, and same here, 2 cannot be in either of these cells because it needs to be next to a 1 or a 3. 2 cannot be in this cell because we know there's a 2 here, and that eliminates a 2 from ever being in that cell. So 2 cannot be any of these cells, and 2 can obviously not be any of these cells because we already have determined what those cells are. Where's the 2 in column 5? It has to be here. So this is a 2. Now, on a Renban, again, like we said, 2 can be consecutive with 1 and 3. But 1 can only be consecutive with 2. So therefore, you would have to go up 1 if you wanted to form a consecutive Renban here. So you would always have to have a 3 here, right? Because the minimum you could have is 1, 2, 3, and 4. You could also have 2, 3, 4, and 5. And those are the only possibilities to be on this Renban. So both of those sets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2, 3, 4, 5, which are the only possibilities that contain 2 on a Renban, they all have 2, obviously, but they also all have 3 and 4. So we know in box 8, the 3 and the 4 have to be on this Ren band. So we know that you have 3 and 4 here and here. And this could be either 1 or 5 with it, right? But the thing is, we know the 3 and 4 has to be on the Ren band. So if this is 1, first of all, it can't be consecutive. It can only be consecutive with 2. So therefore, there would not be a valid number that would be here if this was 1. So this can never be 1. If this is 3, it can be consecutive with 2 and 4. But we know the 4 already is taken up in the Ren band. So the 4 cannot be here. Therefore, this can't be 3. Therefore, this could be 4 or 5 here. And the 5 cannot be here because of this 5. The 4 cannot be here because of this 4. Therefore, to form a correct Ren band, we know this has to be 1 and 3. This has to be 2. Therefore, this must be 4. So because they have to be all consecutive. The set has to be completely consecutive. Which means 1, which is consecutive with 2, which is consecutive with 3, which can only be consecutive with 4. So this has to be 4. This is now consecutive with 4, and we know the 3 is already here, therefore this cannot be 3, this has to be the 5 then. So we know all of these are low, so we have 4 lows in column 6. Therefore the rest have to be 5 or higher. But we already have a 5, so therefore we know that these are all high. So this is 6, 7, 8. These are 6, 7, 8. This cannot be 4, and it cannot be 1 and 3. Therefore, this must be a 2, which makes this a 1, because we knew, again, that this had to be a 1 or a 2. Sorry, it had to be a 1 with a 2 or a 4. So this has to be 1, which makes this not a 1. Therefore, this is a 3. And this can no longer be 1, so what's the minimum this can be? It's 2 plus 1 plus 3 plus 2, which is 8. And that's the maximum this number can be. Therefore, this has to become the minimum, and this has to be the maximum to add up, right? If you try to make this a 3, okay, 3 can't be there because that would add up to 9, but we already have a 9 here, right? So this is at minimum 6. This adds up to 8, therefore. So therefore, this is 2, this is 8. This has to be a high. This can no longer be 8. This can no longer be 3. So this has to be 7 or 9. This is 2 or 4. These are consecutive, and this is a 5. So therefore, these are all high. This cannot be 8 or 9, so it could only be 6 or 7. 6 or 7 can only be consecutive with 6, 7, or 8, right? 9 is not consecutive with either 6 or 7. Where is the 9 in box 8? It has to be here. Therefore, this is 9. So this is 6 and 7. We have a 4 somewhere here. 4 cannot be here. Therefore, 4 has to be one of these consecutive numbers. Well, 4 can only be consecutive with 3 and 5, and 3 is taken away, so this has to be 4 and 5 specifically, because we know 4 has to be one of these numbers. Therefore, we know 6 can't be here because of this 6, so this can't be 6, which makes that a 7. This can't be 6 or 7, so this must be 8. And this can't be 7 or 8, so this must be 6. So this can no longer be 6, and this can no longer be 6. Where is the 9 in column 5? It can only be here. So this is 9, and it's a high. What's left over in column 4 for box 5? It's only 1, 3, and 6. So this is 1, 3, or 6. This cannot be 1 or 3 because of this 1, 3 pair. Therefore, this must be a 6, which means this can't be 6. It cannot be 1. This must be 3. This can't be 3 or 6, so it must be 1. So let's see. These are low. This has to be high. This is 4 or 5. Okay, so all of these have to be 5 or higher. So this cannot be 5. This also is 5. Sorry, this could be 5. This cannot be 4. So this is 5 or higher because we have 1, 2, 3, 4 in box 4. We also know this orange is the same as this orange, and this also has to be 5 or higher. So these are all 5 or higher. These red ones are all 5 or higher. This is 5 or higher, and this is 5 or higher. Therefore, 2 cannot be in any of these cells, and it can't be here. Where is the 2 in row 4? It has to be here. So this is 2. In addition, we know this is 5 or higher. This is 5 or higher. The reds are 5 or higher. Where can the 4 be in row 4? It can't be in any of the 5 or higher box cells, so it must be here. So this is 4 and this is 5, which means this is the low and this is 5. Now, where's the 4? The green is the same as this green, so that can't be 4. This can't be 4 because these two can't be 4 because it sees this 4. Obviously can't be the filled in numbers, so it can't be green, it can't be the filled in numbers, it can't be these two because of this 4. Whereas the 4 in row 5? It can only be here. So this is a 4. And therefore this is a low, which means the rest of box 6 cannot contain a 1 through 4. Okay, so we know green cannot be 5. Green has to be 6, 7, 8, or 9. It can't be 6 either, so it must be 7, 8, or 9. So this is 7, 8, or this green has to be 7, 8, or 9. This is 7, 8, or 9. These two are also 7, 8, or 9. Now we have then a 7, 8, and 9 triplet in box 4, which means we have 3 cells which are only can contain the 3 digits 7, 8, and 9. Therefore, if one of them contain, obviously all 3 of them can have to be filled up with the digits 7, 8, and 9. If we try to fill it up with any other digit, well, we can't, right? So if that digit is anywhere else in box 4, that would be an impossibility because then we have 3 cells trying to be filled with 2 digits or 1 digit even. So that doesn't work. Therefore, we have, that's why I call a triplet. We have a 7, 8, 9 triplet here in box 4, which eliminates 7, 8, and 9 in the rest of the box. Therefore, this cell can no longer have a 7 or 8. It must be a 6 as the only other possibility. This can't be 7, 8, or 9, and obviously can't be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 6, so it must be 5. So this is a 5. This also has to be 7, 8, or 9. Now we know orange is here. The green is here. So where is this cell in box 4? It can't be any of these two. It can't be any of these because this cannot be 7 or 9. So it must be this one. So this cell is the same as this one. And we don't need the high marking as much anymore. So we'll just make this pink, I guess. And then this is pink. So these two are the same. Therefore, it cannot contain an 8 because we know this 8 sees it. Yeah, so there we go with that. Now, we also have to have a 5. Okay, this cannot be 9. So the greens cannot be 9 anymore because they both see this, or this one specifically sees this 9, but they're the same digit. So therefore, this cannot be 9. We have a 7, 8 pair now in row 6. So therefore, the rest of the row cannot contain 7 and 8. So the rest of the row must be 5 and 6 because we already have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 9 there. The pink cannot be a 9 anymore. So therefore, it has to be 7. So this is 7, which means that the green can't be 7. Therefore, it has to be 8. The orange cannot be 7 or 8. Therefore, it must be 9. Therefore, this must be 8 from normal Sudoku rules, and therefore this must be 7 from normal Sudoku rules. Okay. Now we know let's see. 1 cannot be here, and 1 cannot be here. 1 cannot be here. Where is the 1 in column 1? It can't be any of these 6, so it must be along this line, and therefore it must be one of the outer ones because this one sees that 1. Therefore, since this is a low and this is on a German whisper line, it must be one of these is low, right? And therefore, this one, no matter which one is 1, it has to be high, right? Because otherwise it can't be next to a 1. Therefore, we know this is high, and both of these have to be low to match the 1. Since this is a low, it must be 1, 2, 3, or 4, but 2, 3, and 4 are eliminated. Therefore, this has to be the 1, so this cannot be 1. We also know this has to be a high, which means it's 6 or 7. But it has to be next to 2 lows, so it can't be 6, or sorry, it could have been also 8 and 9, but the 8 and 9 here and here eliminate that possibility. So therefore, it can't be 6 because it has to be next to 2 unique numbers on a German whisper line, and 6 can only be next to 1. Therefore, this has to be 7, and therefore this has to be 2, as the only other low number that can be next to a 7. Therefore, we have left in column 1, it's 3, 4, and 6. So 6 cannot be here. This must be a low, because it has to be 3 or 4. This is low. But we don't know what these are. This can't be 4, though. This can't be 7 anymore because of this 7 in box 1, so this must be 8. Where can the 7 be in row 3? It can't be here because of this 7. It can't be here because of this 7. Therefore, it must be here. And the last 2 remaining are 5 and 6. This can't be 6, so this must be 5, and therefore that must be 6. I don't know if the coloring is going to be more helpful than harmful, so I'm just going to continue using normal Sudoku rules. 8 obviously can't be here or here, and it can't be here, so where is it in box 3? Can't be any of these, so therefore it must be here. So this is just by normal Sudoku. Where is the 8 in box 7? And okay, when I number boxes, this is just standard, but the community usually labels this box box 1, this is box 2, this is box 3, this is box 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Because it's easier to, this is how English speakers read, and we sort of adopted, and actually most of the Western world. Eastern speakers usually can read from right to left, or from top to bottom and then right to left. But we are using, I guess, the tradition that most Sudoku solvers use, which is right to left. Left to right, sorry. Left to right and then top to bottom. So that's how most people in the Western world read. So therefore, we number the boxes the same way. So this is box 1, this is box 2, this is box 3, this is box 4, etc., etc. So in box 7, where is the 8? It cannot be here, it cannot be here, can't be here, and it can't be here. Therefore, this is the only one left over that can be 8. Therefore, in column 2, what are the remaining cells? It has to be 3 and 4. But we don't have anything to differentiate them, so therefore this is 3 and 4 specifically. Now we have 6 digits already accounted for in box 7. We have the 3, 4, 6 triplet, remember, where basically all 3 of those cells must contain only those 3 digits. So the rest of the digits cannot be 3, 4, or 6. It can't be a 1, 8, or 9 because of the 1, 8, or 9 already in the box. Therefore, this must be 2, 5, and 7. Well, this can't be 5 and 7, therefore it must be a 2. And this has to be 5 or 7, and this is 5 or 7. In column 8, what are the rest of the cells? It has to be 1, 5, or 9. Well, 5 can never be on a German whisper line, so this can't be 5. And this can't be 5 because of normal Sudoku rules. So in column 8, the 5 can only appear in that cell. So this is a 5. This has to be 1 or 9. And this is 1 or 9. But we already have a 9 there, so this cannot be 9, so this has to be 1, which forces this to be 9. Therefore, 1, and as I said early in the very beginning of the rules, 1 on a renban has to be next to 2 and 3. This can't be 2, so this must be 3, which makes that a 2. And that's 3 in the corner. We celebrate. And in fact, I think we actually even had this similar use dividing it up. Anyways, what is the last cell in box 3? It has to be 4. So that 3 eliminates this 3 here, which makes that a 4. And this 4 makes that a 3, because that can only be 3. Now, what do we have left? It's 6 and 9. This can't be 6, so therefore this is 9. This is a 6. The 9 can only be next to a low number, and it can't be 2 or 3 or 4, so it must be 1. Therefore, this can't be 1. This is 3, which makes this a 1. These are consecutive, and we know 4 can't be anywhere else in column 9, so 4 has to be one of these two. 4 is only consecutive with 3 and 5, but 3 is already taken, so this has to be 4 and 5, which means this can't be 5 because we have a 4-5 pair of cells. So the cells must contain 4 and 5, remember, and therefore it eliminates any other possibilities of 4 and 5 in the same column. So this cannot be 5. This has to be 6, which makes this a 5. This can't be 5 because of this 5, therefore this is a 4, which makes that a 5. This can no longer be 5, therefore this must be a 7. This can't be 7 anymore, so this is a 5. This can't be 4, therefore it's a 3 or 6. And now we have a 3-6-3-6 pair in column 1 or box 7, whichever one you want to use. Therefore, that eliminates 3 and 6 in the rest of the column or box. Therefore, this cannot be 3. This must be a 4. And the only other thing that's left in row 7 has to be a 3. So this is a 3. These can no longer be 3. This is a 3, so this can't be 3 or this can't be 3, so therefore it's 6, which means this can't be 6, so this is a 3, which leaves the only digit left in row 8 has to be a 6, and the only digit left in row 9 has to be a 7. And that's a solve. I hope that made things clear in this solve. I tried to explain things thoroughly. I do tend to sometimes skip steps when I'm speaking. Some of it's just assumptions, but some of it is that I've done it so many times that it sort of becomes second nature to me. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this solve. Let me know in the comments if this was helpful, if going through this step by step was helpful, or if I need to be even more detailed in my explanation. And I'll hopefully see you next time on Frank Puzzles. Take care.